The far left is back in America, and, like last time, it's mostly peaceful.
Welcome to New York.
Since Trump's inauguration and Elon Musk plowing ahead with DOGE, a string of arson, vandalism, destruction, and coordinated attacks on Teslas have been escalating.
You can see the bullet holes in the window.
A targeted attack
or shot at.
Multiple cars in flames.
Domestic terrorism.
Attacks on Tesla vehicles.
Clear factors that this could be politically motivated.
As well as being mostly peaceful, just like last time, they are enjoying the support of the Democrat establishment. Let's see how the Daily Show audience reacted to the news.
They're taking to the streets or the parking lots.
Tonight, the FBI and ATF now investigating multiple cases of possible arson targeting Teslas and Cybertrucks.
This dramatic video shows multiple cars in flames. Police say the attacker used Molotov cocktails. It's the latest in more than a dozen instances of arson and vandalism targeting Tesla.
The same suspect shot more Teslas with a gun. Tesla Cybertrucks were set on fire in Kansas City, and earlier this month, shots fired at a Tesla dealership in Oregon. Cybertrucks on fire in Seattle.
Wow, you guys like petty acts of domestic terrorism, huh?
Now over to Jimmy Kimmel's coverage.
Tesla stock is way down, almost disastrously so. People have been...
The act of boycotting a business is certainly nothing new and certainly not unique to the left. Need I remind you about Bud Light?
The world's largest brewer lost more than $1 billion in sales because of the Bud Light boycott.
Who fucking saw that coming?
But Tesla's stock is down only to where it was at the time of the election in November, so not a huge victory for Kimmel and his claque. But here is where Kimmel gets a bit more sinister.
Vandalizing Tesla vehicles, new Tesla vehicles. Please don't vandalize. Don't ever vandalize Tesla vehicles. And so...
Former Vice President nominee and beta male poster boy Tim Walz had this to say.
Saying on my phone, I don't know, some of you know this on the iPhone, they've got that little stock app. I added Tesla to it to give me a little boost during the day. 225 and dropping.
Again, nothing wrong with boycotting a business necessarily. But as Shark Tank investor Kevin O'Leary explains, Tim Walz might not be having the last laugh on this one.
That poor guy didn't check his portfolio and his own pension plan for state. It's beyond stupid what he did. He's talking down a 3.5% weighting in his own pension plan. I mean, what's the matter with that guy? He doesn't check the well-being of his own constituents in his state. I mean, that's their investment fund. Point, what a bozo.
Well, tampon Timmy Tim Tim's constituents, at least, might not be so pleased. Wally Walls has a track record, though. Who could forget his work as governor during the 2020 riots when Minneapolis was left in ruins? But what's actually going on? Well, attacks against Tesla dealerships are happening across the states in Massachusetts, Missouri, Washington, Maryland, Colorado, New York, Oregon, and Las Vegas. Molotov cocktails are being hurled and guns are being shot. And it is not just in the US. It's also happening in France, where a Tesla showroom was torched in an arson attack with £500,000 worth of cars destroyed. And in Germany, where 4 Teslas were deliberately torched. And in Canada, where a climate change group vandalized a Tesla dealership in Montreal to protest so-called climate denial. In South Carolina, one of the anti-Musk activists set himself on fire after attacking a Tesla charging station with Molotov cocktails. Journalist Andy No reported on X that Antifa and far-left violent extremists are sharing a guide on how to use modified incendiary devices to burn down Teslas safely. Evidence has emerged that a transgender terrorist vandalized a Tesla dealership in Colorado with Molotov cocktails and graffiti.
Where this Tesla storefront was vandalized multiple times with Molotov cocktails and anti-Elon Musk graffiti. Lucy Grace Nelson, a transgender woman, now faces federal and state charges for the Colorado incident.
Now, I'm old enough to remember when transgenders just wanted to be left alone. Well, Trantifa is becoming a rising faction of the far left, which we will be discussing with Andy No himself shortly on The Winston Marshall Show. Political strategist Rick Wilson wrote on his Substack a day after the attack in Vegas, where Teslas were bombed and shot at, "Kill Tesla, Save the Country, with the subtitle, Elon has a weak spot, attack. A website called DOGE has published the personal information of Tesla owners nationwide in a bid to shame and intimidate them. The website, which has a Molotov cocktail as a cursor, says that it would remove identifying information about Tesla drivers if they provide proof that they got rid of their electric vehicles. There are even stickers being put on parking meters in Brooklyn calling for the murder of Elon Musk. Now let's see how the media is covering Tim Walz's comments over the Tesla stock. Left-leaning The List ran this headline: Tim Walz makes brutal joke at Elon Musk's expense and Trump's whiny BFF won't be happy. Now let's use Ground News to see how the rest of the media is covering Tim Walz's comments. We specifically asked them to partner with us because their app and website has allowed me and my team to quickly see through the media bias on any story in the news cycle. There are multiple articles published on Elon Musk and Tim Walz's exchange on X as Walz comments on Tesla's stock decline, and we can access every single one on Ground News with context on each source. It also reveals that only 14% of left-leaning outlets are covering this story. Meanwhile, right-leaning Gazette wrote Tim Walz living in sad existence for cheering stock tumble. A starkly different narrative to the previous headline from The List, giving positive coverage of Walz's comments rather than the Gazette calling his life a sad existence. Seeing all sides regardless of political lean is important in making informed decisions and seeing through biased reporting, which is why their blind spot feed dedicated to showing stories underreported by either side is so important. I believe in what Ground News is doing, and I encourage you to check it out by scanning this QR code or go to ground.news/Winston. If you subscribe through my link, you'll save 40% off unlimited access. Ground News is subscriber funded, and by supporting my sponsors, you are supporting this show. Now, over on CNN, a host suggests that shooting up, firebombing, and vandalizing Tesla locations is just resistance.
I do want to ask about this as resistance. Is this what resistance should look like?
This reply from Representative Seth Moulton will shock you.
So Trump thinks that if you try to kill cops to overthrow the government and change an election, that's not domestic terrorism, but somehow having a protest in front of a Tesla dealership is. The bottom line with Trump is freedom and liberties belong to people who agree with him, and that's it. That's his view of America. That's not a view that people who believe in our Constitution share.
Sounds to me like Democrats are excusing what's going on. We all know how much Democrat politicians care about political violence. I mean, they speak endlessly about Jan 6th. But is it really fair to say that Tampon Tim really represents all of the left when it comes to this recent attacks? Well, my team have compiled footage of Democrats calling out this unacceptable extremist behavior like they did on Jan 6th. To be fair, there has actually been one. The one and only Democrat to unequivocally condemn the attacks has been Ro Khanna, who wrote on March 11th, "There is zero tolerance for acts of vandalism against Tesla. Spraying the words Nazi cars or lighting fire to dealership and chargers is wrong. Period. All Democrats should condemn it." Since then, none of them have condemned it. This is a replay of the mostly peaceful riots.
What you're seeing behind me is one of multiple locations that have been burning in Kenosha, Wisconsin over the course of the night.
The mostly peaceful riots of 2020, although things aren't quite as bad as they were then when 25 people were killed and $2 billion worth of damage was done. But that's not to say things couldn't get worse. Why is this happening now? Well, activists are saying that the reason they are doing this is a response to Elon Musk, who they think is a fascist, and they are upset about his work at the Department of Government Efficiency.
Armed with a pickaxe and sledgehammer in Seattle's Soto neighborhood, these two fellas went to town on this Tesla. The car was left in shambles with shattered windows, massive punctures, and tons of anti-Elon Musk graffiti.
This is obviously ridiculous, and for a couple of reasons. Firstly, it was the left who have been calling for clear out of government spending for decades. Here's Barack Obama himself in 2011.
Everyone knows that getting rid of the deficit will require some tough decisions. And that includes cutting back on billions of dollars in programs that a lot of people care about. But what should be easy is getting rid of the pointless waste and stupid spending that doesn't benefit anybody. Waste we should be getting rid of, even if we didn't have a deficit. Did you know the federal government pays for a website devoted to a folk music ensemble made up of forest rangers? They're called the Fiddlin' Foresters. I'll put their music on my iPod, but I'm not paying for their website. And there are hundreds of similar sites that we should consolidate or just get rid of. By the way, you're not only paying for websites no one needs, you're paying for thousands of buildings all across the country no one uses.
But more salient still, it was made abundantly clear before the election in 2024 that this is what Trump and Musk intended to do. DOGE was on the ballot. The American people chose the government spending cleanup. These wide-scale arson attacks are not only against democracy, but they are seemingly in defense of the bloated state. This is another case of raging for the machine. What next? Well, Attorney General Pam Bondi thinks that the attacks amount to domestic terrorism.
We have people we're locking up on that. We have someone in jail right now from one of the dealerships. They threw a Molotov cocktail through a dealership. They're looking at up to 20 years in prison. So if you're going to touch a Tesla, go to a dealership, do anything, you better watch out because we're coming after you.
Wow.
And
Well,
if you're funding this, we're coming after you. We're going to find out who you are.
Although these attacks aren't yet violent, we remember the murderous riots of 2020 all too well. We remember the left's reaction to the assassination attempts of Donald Trump. We remember those that celebrated Luigi Mangione after the murder of the United Health CEO. I have feared that what we saw in 2020 under Trump 1.0, widespread violence and woke extremism, might come back with a vengeance if he won again. Of course, we all hope these recent attacks will not escalate further. I have a horrible feeling that this might only be the beginning. And with Democrats almost silent, if not actively supporting the criminal activity, the future does not look so promising. Let me know what you think in the comments. Remember to like, subscribe, and share. And if you want exclusive videos, interviews, and content, head over to winstonmarshall.co.uk. Until next time, be well.